Good morning and welcome to the Wednesday, January 30th, 2019 Board of County Commissioners meeting. I'm Kate Flavin, Public Information Officer with Sedgwick County. Commissioners, can you believe it's already the end of January? We've had such a busy month this first part of the year, and so I'd like to share a few videos to highlight a few things that we've done. Starting with the new EMS Post 15.
I want to welcome everyone to this important event. Really a core priority that we have here in Sedgwick County is having a safe and secure community, and that's provided with our EMS as a very key part of it. Sedgwick County continuously looks for ways to enhance our services to support our residents. This new post will expand our coverage and improve our response times to the outer areas of Sedgwick County. We also want to note that just yesterday we established a new ambulance service in Garden Plain, and that provides better coverage on the western half of Sedgwick County. So we're responding to the needs of our residents across Sedgwick County.
Thanks to all of you who are here this afternoon to help us with this ceremony to open this outstanding facility. This new facility, I think, is strategically located, and it's part of our long-term strategic plan to provide for growth in our community and in our county. And this location here, with its capacity for 2 crews, accomplishes that goal. There's a pre-engineered building, and one of the advantages of doing that is that it saves us quite a bit of money. Originally, this project, I think, was on the books for as much as $1.7 million, and I think we end up having just right around $1.1 million in a facility. I think this will be a great facility. It'll serve all our citizens in total, but especially those in Northeast Sedgwick County. It's a great facility, and I'm glad that you all are here to help us celebrate the opening.
Very much looking forward to it because right now we're sharing space with a fire station, or in a fire station, and this is going to give us the room that we need to really do our jobs much better. As a paramedic, this is a great building that'll help us serve the citizens in Sedgwick County and in this part of Wichita.
This is going to help Northeast Sedgwick County, as most people who've reside out here, who have occasion to travel out here know, there's been somewhat of an explosion in both residential and commercial and business activity. So that means a lot more people, and that comes with that is need for emergency services. I'm really pleased that we were able to get this project completed before I left office, and I know that our project services department, Tanya Cole and Sandy Angela, worked real hard with the construction company and the architects to get this done while I was still here. And although I'm not the focus of this project, it is kind of fun to be part of the ribbon cutting in my last week of office.
All right, and we have one more video to share with you based on this past weekend of the mini aviation celebrations. The final thing that we did was celebrating a new home for Doc, and I've got a short video to share about that.
We built this facility to be able to allow the next generation to learn about the legacy of the greatest generation and the legacy of the airplane that we call Doc.
right, and on the agenda this morning, there are a few board appointments. Commissioners will consider a funding request from the Sedgwick County Zoological Society. There will be a donation of books for the Division of Corrections, an update on the 5-year Metropolitan Transportation Plan, and a report of the Board of Bids and Contracts. Finally, Chairman, before I hand the meeting over to you, I'd like to remind everyone, if you have not done so already, to sign up for Commissioner newsletters. You can do that by going to our website, www.sedgwickcounty.org. So, Chairman, the meeting is yours.
Well, thank you, Kate. I appreciate it. And I want to welcome everyone that's in the audience with us today, especially a number of the Zoo Board members are here because we've got an important item on our agenda today that deals with the zoo. Also, I want to welcome all those that are joining us online and also on TV today on KPTS. I appreciated Kate showing the first 2 videos that we had this morning. First of all, we have opened up, we just remodeled a EMS post up in Commissioner Cruz's district that we opened up late last year. We also were able to open up a new EMS post out in near Garden Plain, and we just finished up the new EMS post in now Commissioner Commissioner Meitzner's district. Keep trying to think Commissioner Unruh. He sat there so long. Sorry. Anyway, with that, I appreciate everyone being here. We have a number of important items on the agenda today. So with that in mind, I'd like to start the meeting for January 30th, 2019. Madam Clerk, next item.
Invocation to be led by Pastor Ron Schacht, Olivet Baptist Church. Please remain standing for the flag salute.
Please pray with me. Father, we come before you this morning on behalf of our Board of Commissioners. We ask for wisdom, discernment, and courage to make the decisions necessary to provide safety and direction for the citizens who elected them to represent them in this important role of responsibility. Thank you for their willingness to serve. We pray that they'll have wisdom as they consider the items presented to them this morning. We pray for your perspective on how to best serve the people of our county, even those who politically may disagree with them and who may oppose their ideas. We ask for courage for them to speak their convictions while honoring those whose convictions might be in conflict. Help them respond to questions from the citizens they represent with honesty and openness. Pray that you'd help the commissioners speak with wisdom and respect as they discuss the items on this agenda today. Help them to handle with grace and respect any harsh words directed at them. But Father, also give those who speak to this body wisdom to address their concerns with kindness and politeness, because we're neighbors and we live in the community together. We pray for unity, even in the diversity of opinions held by the commissioners and those who would address them this morning. We pray for those in our community who are the most vulnerable, especially as bitter cold weather sets in. We ask you to protect them and those who serve them. We ask for your presence with our first responders. We pray for protection for them as they provide services to the people in our community. This morning, Father, we remember the officers in Houston who were shot earlier this week. We ask for physical healing for them as well as emotional healing for them and their families. Thank you for the service that they and all first responders provide for the communities they serve. Father, help us respect our fellow citizens, even those whose opinions differ sharply with our own. Teach us how to live together respectfully, especially when we differ with one another. We're grateful for the blessing of living in this nation and ask your blessing on all those who are in positions of leadership and influence. And we ask these things in the holy name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor, thank you very much for being here. Next item, please.
Roll call. Commissioner O'Donnell?
Present.
Commissioner Cruz?
Present.
Commissioner Howell?
Present.
Commissioner Meitzner?
Present.
Chairman Dennis?
Present. Next item, please.
Public agenda.
I don't have anyone signed up to speak on the public agenda, but what we always do is if there's something during our agenda, I open it up for the public. So if anyone would like to speak now, this is an opportunity, though. Seeing no one, next item, please.
Appointments. Item A, accept the resignation of Max McPhail from the position of clerk for the Sedgwick County Sherman Township Board.
Commissioners, Mike Papoon, Interim County Counselor. You have before you the resignation of the Sherman Township Clerk, who was elected by right in the 2018 election, has now indicated that he can no longer serve as the Sherman Township Clerk and would ask to be able to be resigned from this board. So we would ask that you accept his resignation.
Thank you, Mr. Papoon. I move that we accept the resignation of Mike McPhail.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. Next item, please.
Item B, resolution appointing Luke May to the Sedgwick County Sherman Township Board as clerk.
Commissioners, Mike Papoon again, Interim County Counselor. It's by statute, the County Commission replaces township officials. It's upon the recommendation of Chairman Dennis that Mr. McPhail be replaced by Luke May. And so we have a resolution before you appointing Luke May as the Sherman County Clerk and would Township Clerk, and ask that you approve the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Papoon. I did speak to Luke May, and he is interested in the job. As a matter of fact, he's already started working the job. So I move that we approve the appointment of Mike May to the Sherman County Township Board.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. Next item, please.
Item C, resolution appointing MICAH SCOGGAN to the Sedgwick County Stormwater Management Advisory Board as nominee by the City of Goddard.
Mike Papoon, Interim County Counselor. You have before you a resolution appointing Micah SCOGGAN to the Stormwater Management Advisory Board. This is an 18-member board that deals with stormwater issues. There are 10 city appointments, 5 individual county commission appointments, and three other appointments, watershed appointments. This happens to be an appointment by the City of Goddard to replace a former employee of the City of Goddard that was on the board. Resolution's in proper form, and we'd ask you to appoint Micah SCOGGAN to the Stormwater Management Advisory Board.
Thank you. I move that we appoint Mike SCOGGAN to the Stormwater Advisory Board.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. And Karen Bailey swore him in this morning.
Good morning. If you raise your right hand, I'll give you the oath, and you say what you do at the end.
Sounds great.
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Kansas, and faithfully discharge the duties of my office as Sedgwick County Stormwater Management Advisory Board, so help me God.
I do.
Very good. Would you like to say anything?
Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you for the appointment, and I appreciate the vote of confidence. So, thank you.
Thank you, and welcome.
Sign
Okay. Madam Clerk, next item.
New business, item D, consideration of a funding request by the Sedgwick County Zoological Society.
Thank you. And congratulations on your appointment. Thank you. Morning, Tim.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Kaufman, Assistant County Manager of Public Services. This morning, I'm pleased to present the next phase of a long-standing partnership between Sedgwick County and the Zoological Society that began more than 50 years ago. That partnership resulted in the opening of the Sedgwick County Zoo in 1971, which means that the zoo will be celebrating their 50th anniversary in 2 years. Over the lifetime of this partnership, the Society has usually funded animal habitats and exhibits and revenue-generating projects, while the county provides funding for infrastructure, maintenance, and building replacement projects. Almost 1 year ago, zoo leadership, staff, Board of Trustee members, and stakeholders undertook an extensive planning process that resulted in a 25-year master plan. That master plan was first revealed last fall and was met with a great deal of interest and enthusiasm by the public. Phase 1 of the master plan includes a new visitor entry center, including ticketing booths, a new membership office, administrative offices, and a new gift shop. Also included in Phase 1 are a guest train and a new expanded habitat for the highly endangered Amur leopard. As designed, Phase 1 includes a new inviting face for the zoo, necessary building replacements, a new revenue-generating and entertainment feature in the train, and a greatly improved habitat that will enhance the conservation of an endangered species. Replacing a 48-year-old entrance designed for an annual attendance of up to 100,000 guests with a modern entrance suited for the 500,000 or more guests that now visit each year is an important first step in this master plan. The new visitor entry center will also replace an aging, outmoded administrative office that's over 60 years old and no longer meets the needs of the zoo. Projected costs for the visitor entry center and the new administrative offices are $8.5 million, and the full project cost for all of Phase 1 is $15 million. In late October, the Society shared a proposal that included a funding request of the Commission. At your direction, staff performed an analysis of the proposal typical of community development and economic development projects. Earlier this month, at a staff meeting, that analysis and a detailed review of Phase 1 of the master plan were again reviewed with the Commission. Zoological Society has proposed to fundraise approximately $9 million, including $2.5 million towards the visitor entry center and administrative office, and is requesting that the county provide $6 million towards the total project. The proposed funding agreement is structured to provide payments of $2 million a year for 3 years, beginning in 2019, ending in 2021, and it's timed to result in a new visitor entry center complex as part of the zoo's 50th year anniversary celebration. At this point, I'm recommending that the board authorize the chairman to sign the funding agreement. And before I stand for questions, I'd like to recognize a full contingent of board members and zoo staff that have come here this morning and invite Kevin Arnell, the president of the Zoological Society Board of Trustees, to come to the podium to speak on behalf of the board. Kevin?
Good morning. Welcome, Kevin.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, good morning. And thank you, Tim, for your work and all the work of the county staff, which was a very thoughtful, comprehensive analysis of our project. And as always, Commissioners, your staff has been extremely professional, very thorough, very helpful in their analysis, and we appreciate that. You're here today to consider that proposal and their hard work. And that hard work has culminated in the sponsorship agreement that's before you today for consideration. And that sponsorship agreement represents an important, really a critical first step in how our zoo is positioned to move forward for decades to come through this improved visitor entry complex. And since Tim has already outlined several of the specifics, I'd like to just offer a couple of additional words about the partnership that the county and the society have enjoyed. As Tim noted, 53 years ago, the county and the society signed off on an agreement to partner together to create the Sedgwick County Zoo. Excuse me. The zoo opened 5 years later, and so for 5 decades now, we've been partners in a premier cultural and community endeavor that we call the Sedgwick County Zoo. Zoos like ours, near and far in Omaha and Oklahoma City and Kansas City and Topeka and elsewhere, have continued to improve and develop and enhance their visitor offerings and visitor experience at their zoos. We've done likewise, and over the past several years, with smart budgeting and fewer dollars than most, have achieved world-class status with several of our exhibits, including the ones you're most recently participated in, and the elephants of the Zambezi River Valley, which just received some top national honors when competing against exhibits that cost many millions of dollars more. So our belief is that zoos reflect the communities they're in, and our community has momentum. We've heard that from Project Wichita and other sources. Tim referenced the feedback we got when we announced our master plan, which has been super positive. Our community continues to think bigger, more positively, and we're focused on a quality of life and quality of place here. We at the Zoological Society are proud to play our role as a top place for our friends and neighbors to come bring their families and for people outside of Wichita to come visit and experience our community. We appreciate your consideration of replacing our zoo's current entryway and providing a portion of the cost of the administrative building that will serve for generations to come, and again has served generations well in the past, over these past 5 decades. Importantly, this will preserve Sedgwick County's branding or identity on the face of our zoo, at our front gate, so to speak. But perhaps more important, it will preserve and enhance our visitors' experience and our community's experience when they enter the zoo, and have a much more positive engagement with our zoo. And as we think about those millions of future visitors, I think this is just a critical first step as we achieve our master plan. So as the Society's committed, if this project is approved by the Commission, we're ready to move forward and seek the generous support of the private sector and try to leverage a unique $2 million challenge grant that we've received, and secure in total about $9 million of funding to help accomplish this phase 1, including 50% of the cost of the administrative building. So I would close by just noting that what we've done together requires great partners. It requires great private sector partners that invest in our zoo and that contribute to our success, but it also requires great public sector partner like the county, who knows how important it is to work together and how important it is to move our community forward in this regard. So on behalf of the many trustees that are here today and the zoo staff, on behalf of our 15,000 member households, the 500,000 or 600,000 folks that visit us each year, and hopefully a whole bunch more with the new visitor entry center that will visit us in the future, we just want to say thank you for the Commission's leadership in our community, and particularly for our zoo. So I'm like Tim, I'll be happy to address some questions, but do appreciate the opportunity to visit with you today.
Thank you, Kevin. Do I have any questions from the bench for either Tim or for Kevin this morning? Seeing none, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Tim, do you have anything else?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Very good. Well, at this time, I'd like to open up the audience. If anyone in the audience has anything that they'd like to add, this would be the time to do that. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the bench. First of all, let me let Commissioner Cruz first. Thank you.
I just want to say, as I was able to tour with Dr. Etling, he mentioned to me how the staff had an opportunity to weigh in on the future of the zoo, which I feel is remarkable. And I think that we could utilize staff, because normally they wouldn't have an opportunity to make any sort of recommendations in these big decisions. So I think that we can utilize the thing that you have done with including every single layer of staff in other decisions that are made across our county. So the second portion is our zoo. The entrance is so important, and as a mother of young kids, they're so energetic when they want to go to the zoo. So if you have to wait in line for a really long time, I mean, you guys know how annoying that is, right? So get them in the zoo, and then they can take a nap later, and we can all enjoy that, right? So I just want to thank you guys so much for your work on this. I'm excited. I'm excited about it.
Thank you. I'd like to make a couple comments. First of all, it's been my honor for almost 2 years now to serve on the zoo board, and I appreciate them allowing me to serve with them. The nice thing about that is that almost a year ago we started the strategic plan, and I got to participate in that and see how it was developed. And as Commissioner Cruz mentioned, everyone was involved in developing that strategic plan. That strategic plan is going to stretch out over the next 25 years. This is just phase 1 of about 8 phases that we're looking at for the zoo to keep it as the #1 tourist attraction in the state of Kansas. The zoo has over a $40 million a year impact on Sedgwick County and the region. That's important. The zoo has an impact. The zoo has an impact on a number of the families here. I know that my wife and I are members, and we have a 7-year-old grandson who, by the way, today is his 7th birthday. So I want to wish him happy birthday. But one of the great things that we've had an opportunity to do, since we pretty well take care of him during the day while his parents work, is one of his favorite places is the zoo. So he gets an opportunity to go there quite frequently. And as a matter of fact, if you need anyone to give tours, he can probably do that for you. So I think this is a great opportunity. It looks to the future. It's part of our economic development. It's part of making Wichita and Sedgwick County a great place for people to live, work, play, and pray. And I think that this is something that we can definitely get behind. It is well thought out. It's something that's going to lead us into the future. I don't know how many of you got to see any of the things on the news recently, but yesterday I did a very interesting interview. I did it in the restroom of the current administrative building. So those of you that haven't had an opportunity to see it, go and check out Dion Leffler's article that he's got put together, and you'll see what they've been living with for the last 47 years in their administrative building. So that's just one of the things that is going to be improved as a result of this. So I am very proud that we can support this, and I'll be happy to make a motion here briefly, but Commissioner Howe would like to say something.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the front end, let me just say I am supportive of this, but I do have a couple of quick questions, and I think Mr. Kaufman probably can answer them. Just can you please remind me, is this coming out of the operating reserves? Is that correct?
That's correct. The 2019 funds will come out of the operating reserve, and then we've got time to embed the $2 million for 2020 and 21 into that budget cycle. So,
and is there sufficient fund balance to keep us from doing deficit spending in 2019?
I believe that that's going to be very close, but I think that we're in a position where we may be able to do this without any deficit spending.
Okay. Just for clarity, 2019 is our current year budget, and we passed that last August. So this is, we didn't know about this request at that time. So this is something that's obviously adds a little bit of a change to that budget, which is fine. We can do that. I just wanted to, I guess, make that point. Second of all, this is intended to be completed in 2021, which I believe is for the 50th anniversary of our zoo.
That's
we
correct.
should highlight that part. There's going to be a big celebration in a couple of years, and we're going to be celebrating our zoo for 50 years, and it has grown beyond our imagination. I remember talking to our zoo, as I say, Mark Reed, our zoo director for all those years. He talks about how that land, the 202 acres, was nothing but a field when they got started. It's hard to imagine that today. So it has truly been a huge investment on Sedgwick County taxpayers and the citizens of our community, and it's truly a jewel. And so I know this is the state's, I guess, largest tourist attraction. I understand. I may not be saying that quite right, but that's why those were the words I hear a lot. So I believe that's true, and so it'd be great to see this addressed. I understand also from our previous discussion that when this entrance was created, they maybe had planned on a couple 100,000 visitors a year, but in 2016 we had over 710,000 visitors, and I think those numbers will continue. So it is time to update this tired old entrance. I would say this is a big investment on Sedgwick County. In fact, this is even more than we spent on elephants, which is no problem. I mean, we love the elephants, but this is a greater investment than what we put on the elephants in 2014. That commitment we made back then, that exhibit opened, I think, in 2016. We saw a huge spike in attendance because of the elephants. I don't know if we'll see attendance change based on this one. I don't know if this will impact. Is there any projections on that in terms of how this might impact our attendance?
We haven't really thought about how the entrance would impact attendance, and I don't think many people will come to the zoo just to see the entrance, but all of the other things that are included in the master plan, and again in this phase one of the master plan, we plan to include a solar-powered train that will be a nice new feature for kids and adults alike, and then we're also enhancing the Amber leopard exhibit, and so I think that the combination of things in phase one and then all of the rest of the master plan will continue to drive attendance, and we'll see. Historically, the last 10 years we've been over 500,000 guests every year, and I think that number will only continue to grow.
Thank you for that answer. And my final question would be this. Again, these are based on estimates, but we have a fixed cost of 2.5 for the admin building and 3.5 for the visitor center. You know, ideally, those projects might hopefully actually cost a little bit less than those estimates. That's the goal. I think every time you build a project, you estimate and and you try to cut, costs if you can during the construction projects. And so if this does come in being a little bit less than that, is it still a fixed cost to the county?
Right now, the intent of the funding agreement is to fund $2 million per year for the 3 years. However, I think the partnership that we've developed with the Zoological Society and the Board of Trustees would allow us at some point in time, if the admin building and the entrance came in significantly less, I think we'd certainly have the opportunity to go back to our partners and talk about how that would impact what we did in that 3rd year.
Okay. I think it'd be hopefully, it'd be a great future discussion if we find some savings along in the process and still end up with what we want as a community. And if there's some savings and maybe have that discussion, that would be a good thing. I would hope that would happen. But anyway, just for the record, I'm very supportive of this, and it's good to see the zoo board members and some of the staff. I see Steve back there. Great, Steve, and others. Appreciate you taking time to come up here and support this as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I don't see any other comments. Dion, I welcome you this morning. I just complimented you on giving the first interview I ever had in a restroom, so if you missed that, I want to make sure that everybody knew.
I'll say something.
Okay.
Thank you, Tim, for this, and Kevin. This is going to be great, transformational, really, for our zoo. I'm excited that we're able to take part of it, and you guys cracked the code of the most successful campaigns in this community. Have Cheryl Wolford being a part of it, because nobody can tell her no. So when she came, I think it was October, maybe early November, when they came, and she's great sales lady. So that really helped. But thank you guys very much.
Thank you. I don't see any other comments. You did a good job of briefing us, Tim and Kevin. We appreciate it. So with that, it is my honor to move that we approve the funding request by the Sedgwick County Zoological Society and provide $2 million a year for the next 3 years. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. And we look forward to the ribbon cutting here on the 50th anniversary. Thank you all for being here today. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item E, accept a donation of 2,800 books for the Division of Corrections from Jan Schultz with the estimated value of $7,000.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Glenda Martins, Division Director for Corrections, and I'm here today to ask you to request and accept a donation from what she calls herself Grandma Jan Schultz. She is a retired educator who created and wrote 8 different books in total, but 2,800 books she wants to donate to the Division of Corrections. And these books are written for youth and adults. They have a very positive message in each and every book, and I reviewed all the books before I was willing to accept the donation. They are also coloring books. So she crafted the design in the books so kids or adults can sit down with their kids and read to them and color in them. And so that's my request today.
Thank you. Do we have any questions this morning? I see no questions. First of all, on behalf of the entire Sedgwick County Board of County Commissioners and the entire county, we definitely want to thank Jan Schultz for this great donation. It's fantastic. It's going to help our folks out that are working with you in corrections to change the direction of their lives. We think that this is a great honor to be able to receive this on behalf of Sedgwick County and in honor of Jan Schultz. So with that, I'd like to make a recommendation that we accept the donation of the books from Jan Schultz. Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. Thank you, Linda, for being here, and please pass on our thanks.
I will do that. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next item, please.
Item F, presentation of by the Wichita Metropolitan Area Planning Organization on the process of an update, the 5-year Metropolitan Transportation Plan.
Good morning, Chris, and welcome.
Morning.
A
Thank
number
you.
of us are aware of what you've done here, so now we can let the rest of the public know.
Sure thing. So I'm Chris Upchurch. I'm a principal planner with WAMPO. WAMPO is an intergovernmental organization of which Sedgwick County is one of our 23 members. And we do transportation planning for the Wichita region. We also disperse about $12 million a year in federal funds. I'm here to talk to you today about our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. This is our high-level plan looking out the next 20 years, what we're going to be Thank you. What we're going to be doing in the region as far as transportation goes over the next 20 years. So I'm looking for your input on this plan, what we need to consider when we're going through the planning process. We're still at the very beginning of this process. So I'm going to start with a quick summary of where WAMPO sees us in the region right now as far as transportation goes, what we see the future might look like. And then I'm going to ask for your input on what we need to consider, what we need to make sure we include when we're doing this planning for the next 20 years. So I always like to start out by talking about safety. And unfortunately, it's not great news for the safety front. Fatalities in our region have been heading upwards since the Great Recession, and fatal injuries and serious injuries among our most vulnerable road users, bicyclists and pedestrians, have been trending up for the past several years. On the congestion front, on the other hand, we have much better news. Congestion is not a big problem at the regional level. According to our model, the average rush hour trip only adds about 26 seconds due to congestion. However, we do have some localized bottlenecks, areas like the North Junction where we need more local improvements, even though we're doing pretty good at the broad level. Can't talk about transportation without talking about money, and there we're seeing probably flat federal funding going forwards in the future. On the state side, the Kansas Department of Transportation has some significant issues. The state legislature has moved quite a bit of money out of KDOT's budget to allocate it to other priorities in the state budget. And it's gotten to the point that we are really seeing them having significant issues delivering projects in our region because of that. There's also the matter of is what we're spending right now sufficient to maintain our system? And there are signs that it's not. KDOT has recently set targets for pavement and bridge condition, and in both of those areas on a statewide level, they're expecting things to get worse. And more locally here, the city of Wichita has explicitly said that at their current funding levels, they are trying to manage the decline in their pavement conditions. Talk about freight, very important to our economy. We get about $48 billion of freight coming into, out of, or through the Wichita region. And we only expect that to increase in the future. Finally, I want to talk a little about the demographics of our region. We are a very slow-growing area, less than 1% per year. We have an aging population, not just in the sense that all of us are getting older, but we are seeing the baby boom generation choosing to retire and stay here in the local area versus how previous generations might have moved out to Florida or Arizona. And that's really increasing the number of seniors in our region, which we have to take account of in transportation planning. On the other end of the spectrum, the millennials and Generation Z folks are coming into the workforce. And this is combining to increase the number of single-person and childless households. You have the empty nesters on the older end, and then you have the younger folks who are choosing to wait longer to get married and have kids. And that changes some of the desires on the land use side, which in turn impacts transportation. Finally, on the younger end, we are kind of losing the cream of the crop. As President Bardo of Wichita State University likes to say, here in Wichita, our number one export is airplanes, our number two export is educated young people, and that's something that's a big problem for the region moving forward. Then talking about alternative modes, we are seeing more desires out there for walkability and for bicycle pedestrian projects. We have more non-drivers. The younger folks are not getting driver's license at the same rates that previous generations did, and of course seniors eventually often will give up their keys and look for alternatives to get around, be that transit or other modes. So looking to the future, the possible futures that WAMPO is looking at for our region. One possibility is these demographic trends could lead to an urban renaissance, more people looking for higher density apartments or duplexes versus your traditional single-family home on a larger lot. And in this scenario, that density would drive a desire for walkability and active transportation and transit, both in the core of Wichita and also in town centers developing out in some of our outlying communities. Another scenario we're looking at is the funding situation, if that gets worse. One possibility on that is if we have strong regional leadership and can come up with a local funding source to backfill the money that we're not getting from the state and the federal government. On the flip side, if we don't come up with a local funding source and the funding situation gets worse, we may have to do less with less to really prioritize and triage the system, maybe repurpose some facilities for other uses. Finally, we're looking at a future of very rapid technological change, things like autonomous vehicles, cars that can drive themselves, but also other developments like remote work. Every worker that works from home rather than traveling to their job takes a car off the road during our peak periods, and that has a big impact on the transportation system. So that is my very brief summary of where we are and where we're going. What we would be interested in hearing from you is what should we look at for the future of transportation in the Wichita region? Which of these areas should we emphasize? Maybe what did we leave out of that summary that needs to be included? So I would welcome thoughts from the Commission on that.
Thank you, Chris. Commissioner Cruz.
I love you talking about designing roads for people rather than cars, so walkability and understanding how, in District 4 we have Park City and Valley Center and Mays, and how we can connect those areas through bicycle paths or walking paths. So I would just like a focus of designing roads for people rather than automobiles.
Very good. Other comments this morning? Well, transportation is one of our top 3 issues that we have here that we've sent up to the state to look at. And we have agreement between the city and Chamber of Commerce and GWP that transportation is one of our top 3 issues. It's something that we look at every single day, trying to make sure that we can do things like improve the North Junction. Sedgwick County is very, very interested in seeing if we can't complete a northwest bypass that goes between Commissioner Cruz's district and my district. That's going to be a huge economic driver for that region, and we strongly support doing anything along that lines. The autonomous cars are something that I think we need to keep our eye on to see what we can do to develop. As a baby boomer myself, at some point in time I'm not going to be able to drive, and I recognize that, but I still like my freedom. So if you can get Chevrolet to design a self-driving Corvette, I'd be more than happy.
Oh, Corvette.
So, I know that we have 3 members here today that have served on WAMPO, and we're looking at who is going to be serving on WAMPO here in the near future. But we are deeply involved in exactly what you're doing every single day, and we have helped develop where you're at right now, and we want to be part of that going into the future. So I hope that through our work through WAMPO that we have directly, and any comments that you have here today, that we're ready to move into the future for our transportation needs here in Sedgwick County and the region.
Thank you. We definitely appreciate your service on the WAMPO board and the good work the Commission has done pushing our region's interests up in Topeka. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions for Chris Goes? Good. Seeing none, I move that we receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, call a roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. Next item, please.
Item G, report of the Board of Bids and Contracts regular meeting of January 24th, 2019.
Morning, Joe.
Good morning, sir. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, Joe Thomas, Purchasing Director. The meeting of the Board of Bids and Contracts of January 24th resulted in 7 items that we'd like to present to you this morning. Item number 1 is road improvements for Public Works. This is the 2019 NovaChip project. The recommendation is to accept the low bid from Cornejo & Sons, LLC in the amount of $3,655,455.66. Item number 2 is the on-call services for the purchase, installation, and maintenance of access controls, cameras, recorders, and other security system components. And this is for various county departments. This recommendation is to establish a contract with Sandifer Engineering and Controls Incorporated based on the City of Wichita contract BP 440086, and this is good through August 31st of 2019 with options to renew. Item number 3 are clean screen columns for the Regional Forensic Science Center, and this recommendation is to accept the low bid from UCT LLC for a delivered cost of $1.87 per cartridge and establish contract pricing for 1 year with 2 one-year options to renew. Item number 4, liquid chromatograph mass spectrometer service plan for, again, Regional Forensic Science Center. And this recommendation is to accept the quote from Waters Technologies Corporation in the amount of $88,612.50. You'll notice that's a reduction of the original bid board recommendation. Since bid board, the Forensic Science Center was in contact with the Waters Technology Company and told them that one of the components of the system was no longer needed, and so this results in a reduction of about $4,063 per year in their service plan. So it's reflected in the overall total reduction, a little over $12,000. Item number 5, the Agilent maintenance and support for Regional Forensic Science Center. And this recommendation is to accept the quote from Agilent Technologies Incorporated, and this is for a 3-year total of $191,587.38. Item number 6, Aumentum Maintenance and Support. And this is information, technology, and support services. The recommendation is to accept the quote from Thomson Reuters in the amount of $362,670.14. And our final item is the 1-ton 4-wheel drive regular cab with a dual rear wheel truck, and it has a 10-foot flatbed. This is for fleet management and noxious weeds. And this recommendation is to accept the low responsive bid from Don Hatton Chevrolet in the amount of $57,500. So I'll be happy to try to answer any questions you may have, and I recommend approval of these items.
Thank you. Commissioner Howell.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am mostly pleased with all these items. I would like to make a point on number 2 that I think when we get to our budget retreat in February, we ought to be talking about potentially bringing this service back to in-house, have IT staff become experts on some of this type of equipment, and see if we can do that in-house. I think it might save money. We ought to have that discussion and have that analysis potentially. But generally speaking, I'm pretty happy with everything except for item 7. I would like to make a motion we would approve the recommendation of the Board of Bids and Contracts for items 1 through 6, and I would do that so that I can vote no on item 7. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Meitzner was next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joe, thanks for the presentation. Item number 1, I just want to make note that, of course, I'm not in the meetings, but this is preventive maintenance for 65 miles of selected county roads, and the question and the answer provided by Jim Weber that it's not equally district-based, it's based on what roads are needed for this, and I think that's I don't know if that's a solid plan. We're just addressing roads that are needed and not X per district. So thank you. So noted.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you. Yeah, I am concerned as well about item number 7, seeing as how Rustiac Ford, it was $7,000 cheaper. Did we go back and did they misunderstand what this bid was? Because reading the notes, it said that it was off by about 1,000 pounds, I think. Is that correct?
Yes, the gross vehicle weight was off, and I have Miss Penny Poland from Fleet.
But is it okay? Okay.
And also the the wheels, instead of being 8, they were 17-inch, and I believe 18 was required. Okay. So there were a couple of the specifications. It was very clear on the specifications what was required.
So does Ford not offer one that meets the specifications? Is that what the issue is?
Good morning, Penny Poland, Fleet Management. I believe that they just bid a smaller truck. They do have one that meets these specifications.
So was there miscommunication? I mean, it's just...
They have a truck that will meet these specifications. They just chose to bid a smaller truck.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would be very glad to add some additional discussion as to why I would vote no on item 7, but I thought that 1 through 6 are fairly non-controversial, so I thought if we could get those out of the way, we'd have a more robust discussion on item 7. I would give you some more reasons as to why. But I would like to see us move forward on items 1 through 6 and deal with item 7 as a separate discussion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to do items 1 through 6, and we'll take care of that. Is there any, I'm sorry, Commissioner Cruz?
Hey, Penny. So did they give a reason as to why they bid a smaller truck instead of bidding the truck that you had asked about?
No, ma'am.
We'll take items 1 through 6, and then we can come back to item 7 here in a moment. So I have a motion and a second on items 1 through 6 to approve. Is there any further discussion on those items? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. And now we'll take up item 7 separately. I know that we've heard comments from 2 of the commissioners. When we talked about this with the manager the other day, I asked the exact same question separately on 1,000 pounds and 1 inch difference in tires. Is that worth $7,000 or $8,000 that we're going to pay difference? And the second question that I had was, I think you've already answered it. Does Ford not make one that meets those specifications? And from what I understand, you say that Ford does make one that would meet those specifications. So those were the 2 questions that I had. Guess I'm not quite sure what happened on this, but I did have a little bit of concern. Commissioner Howell.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I would like to have a deeper understanding as to why the 15,000 pounds is necessary. If someone can explain why 14 doesn't work but 15 does, I guess that extra understanding would help me a little bit. Or why this 18-inch wheels is critically important versus 14-inch wheels, versus 17-inch wheels. If we understand the reasons why, I might get back on board. But right now, it just seems a little bit arbitrary to pick those numbers unless it's based on the mission this truck is doing. So I need more information. And then secondly, I would just add that I know we followed our points policy, but the mileage on this truck is very low. 110,000 miles is what we're replacing. It just seems a little bit low to me compared to what we've been doing in the past. So I guess I'd like to have a little more information about the condition of the truck we're replacing. So
Okay.
those are my requests. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Specifications were created for this truck based on the performance required by the department. This truck is a specialty truck. It has a 300-gallon water or liquid tank mounted on the back of it. It will tow a mower as well. So the GVW, it's also going up steep slopes in the ditch. It's an off-road truck. So this truck will need the GVW and the tire size for clearance to be in these kind of conditions. The recommendation has a GVW of 16.5, which exceeds specifications. So we were asking for a 15, but the recommendation exceeds that spec.
Can you
In regards to the mileage, this is a 13-year-old truck. It meets the points. It was high in maintenance. It met the replacement criteria. It is a specialty truck. It's not an over-the-road. Our mileage requirement for an over-the-road is 150,000 or 10 years. This truck is 13 years old, but it's not an over-the-road truck. It's an off-road truck as well.
Okay. Well, that does help a little bit. Thank you for the explanation.
Hey, Mr. Spears.
Mr. Chairman, David Spears, Director of Public Works. I just want to tell you, Penny's doing a great job, but if you
I guess you could say, want to really get down into the weeds on this, our weed director is here, Mark Furry, and he can probably answer specific questions.
Very good. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Mark Furry, Director of Noxious Weeds. I personally wrote the specs for this truck based on some previous experience that we've had. The previous director also wrote specs. I actually, if you want to call it, dumbed down the specs a little bit to allow Dodge to also bid, which they did not. The original specs were a much higher horsepower rating and a much larger tire size. We do have the current truck that it is replacing is a 3500. We've had a lot of issues with that truck due to its lower weight capacity. The tank that goes on this truck weighs about 1,200 pounds, and then when it's loaded, that's an additional 2,400 pounds. We're carrying that up and down slopes, off-road. The truck has to be able to handle the twists and turns and actually be able to handle a lot of things. We've hit, there's a lot of structures in the ditches that are not marked, so having the additional clearance is very important. Do you have any other questions about the actual makeup of the truck?
Just again, quick question. When you use the word clearance, I assume that the axle height is the issue, not the chassis. The axle height is the concern because obviously that's center line of the axle. So that's what you're referring to.
Yes.
Well, the difference from an 18 and a 17, if it's it's essentially a half an inch when you look at the wheel diameter, it's a half an inch difference in clearance.
But the 18-inch trucks do sit higher. I mean,
that's the chassis, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions from any of our speakers? Or any of our speakers? Seeing none, thank you. I move that we approve item 7.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
No.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
No.
Commissioner Meitzner?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Consent agenda.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Stolz, Interim County Manager. Recommend you approve items, consent items H through T.
Thank you. Commissioner Howell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion we approve items I through T so we can have some discussion on item H.
Second motion. Any discussion on approving item India through Tango? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. And that puts us back to item hotel. Commissioner Howell.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there someone here in the audience that can provide a little bit of history on this road project, exactly how we got here? What are we being asked to do here? What's this contract for specifically? Do we have someone that can answer these questions?
Commissioner Howell, David
Yes,
Spears, Director of Public Works. I can try to answer your questions. Give you a little bit of history. This is about 127th Street East between Central and 13th Street North. It's a City of Wichita road, has been about 10 years. The county had it prior to that. It is adjacent to Crestview Improvement District. The road does need some work on it. What happened in the past, Crestview and METROPOLITAN went to see the City of Wichita and informed them that they thought that based upon the law, Crestview Improvement District goes to the center line of 127th, and they were saying that Wichita could not annex the road because it is in the improvement district. After that, 4 parties got together, Sedgwick County, Wichita, METROPOLITAN Township, and Crestview Improvement District. This has been going on since last June, prior to the golf tournament then. People were expecting the road to be fixed before that golf tournament. We'll now be lucky to get it fixed before the next golf tournament. But at any rate, the 4 parties since last June have been talking about what to do. And not only the representative of each party, also attorneys for each of the groups. So you can imagine with 4 different entities what that process was.
at any rate, we have all come up with, collectively, with this agreement, a four-party agreement, where Sedgwick County, Wichita, and Minnehaha will each pay $150,000 to repair the road, and then Crestview will not oppose Wichita annexing the road. Wichita will be responsible for the road in the future. Their plans are finished to do the work and are ready to go. If we get this approved, Minnehaha did approve this agreement at their last meeting. We hope and recommend that Sedgwick County approve it today, and then it will go to Wichita, and they will approve it hopefully in a couple weeks.
So I have a couple of questions. So this road is currently paved? That's the current status. It is paved right now? And this is a repair to the road?
The road is paved right now. Is that what you asked?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the road is paved. It is in a little disrepair. There's some bad spots that need to be fixed and an overlay put on it. So that's about where we're at with that.
So I guess I have one question. Is that the type of repair that's going to be made? Is fixing some spots and an overlay? I thought from reading the contract, it sounds like they're going down to the base.
Gary Jansen's here, and I think he could better answer that. He's the city engineer for the city of Wichita, and he's familiar with what their plan is.
Okay.
Morning, Gary. State your name for the record.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Gary Jansen, city engineer of the city of Wichita. With the additional funding, if approved by all parties, for the $450,000, there are some significant failures along the edge of the road in particular that's happened over time, and we do plan for full depth repair of as many of those areas as possible. There are some thermal cracking, some things that happen over time with the temperature differences we see. Full width, we'll repair some of those cracks. We'll do as much significant rehabilitation as we can, and then put a new surface on the entire stretch.
If this goes under budget, and again, that's always a great goal. If it goes under budget, is this the savings to be split amongst the three?
That is our plan.
Jurisdictions, okay.
Yes.
And if it goes over budget, what happens then?
Our plan is, and I don't remember the language in the agreement, but we expected all three parties to come back together and evaluate that at that time.
All right. Yeah, this is. I will support the proposal today. I'll make a motion for that in just a moment. I'd like to make a couple of points. I'll first make a motion that we would approve item H, and then I'd like to make some comments. I'll wait for those comments.
Future costs. Commissioner, Mike Fessinger, Assistant County Counselor. I would just make a brief correction. Should the costs, as this agreement as written, should the costs exceed $450,000, those costs shall be borne by the city solely.
That's good to know.
Yeah, that's on page 2, item C2.
Very good.
Number 4C2.
Anyway, I'll make that motion. I'll make some comments after there's a second.
Okay. We do have a motion. Do we have a second so we can have discussion?
Yeah, I'd second it.
Motion by Commissioner Meissner. All right. Do we have further discussion then at this point in time?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make some comments. Just a couple of things about this. So one of the things that's frustrating just a little bit is we have these roads that are split down the middle. This is not a good situation in any case, because it always creates conflict as to who does what when. We have a few other roads around the county that are kind of like that, and there's actually a couple in my district. One of them is very problematic right now. And that's 159th Street between Harry and Pawnee. It's the north half is paved and the south half is gravel. The western half is Sedgwick County and the eastern half is Butler County. Wichita is annexed basically along the paved section on our Sedgwick County side, and Andover's annexed along the road on the full mile on the east side. And so we've got numerous jurisdictions that have an interest in this road, but right now, as far as I can tell, this is still a township road, and the township doesn't really want to do anything to take care of this road. And right now, since it's half-mile paved, someone has to step up and take care of this. It is dilapidating, and I'm very concerned about that. The reason this is expensive, Mr. Spears, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason this is very expensive is because what probably should have happened would be about 4 or 5 years ago, some type of treatment should have happened that would have prevented further dilapidation. And so this is, I guess, a good poster child for us how to take care of our roads. And by the way, I would like to commend Public Works and specifically Director David Spears. He does a tremendous job, and his staff does a great job of taking care of county roads. Our roads are, I think, the best in the state. But we have a preventative maintenance program, and we're very faithful to that, and we invest in our infrastructure to keep it in good shape, in good repair. But this is an example, and Mr. Spears, you've told me over the years either you take care of it with maintenance, or it's going to cost you a lot of money later on. This is an example where it's nearly $500,000 repair for something that probably would have cost $40,000 maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And so this is we need to take care of our stuff, and anybody who owns a road should take care of that road. That's another thing. This is one of those things where as we get annexation proposals or improvement district proposals, we ought to make sure the road is solely owned by one jurisdiction and not multiple jurisdictions, because that just creates conflict. And I would also say, Minnehaha has also been conflicted. Minnehaha Township has been conflicted. In fact, it wasn't a unanimous vote. It was a 2-0 vote. One of the members of that board did not want to vote on this. So it was approved by a 2-0 vote, and there's been some confusion on their part as to how we got here as well. And this has just been very frustrating to get to this point. So I guess I would just like to say there's a lot of things to learn about how we got here and things to avoid, and try to have more I guess cooperative government solutions. I would say that I think that Sedgwick County is being very gracious to be a partner in this. We don't own this road. This is good for Crestview, it's good for Minnehaha, it's good for Wichita, and we're being gracious, I think, to do this. And I want to commend us. I think this is a good thing for us to do as a good partner to make peace with the city of Wichita, for example. I hope that they recognize us as good, gracious partners on something that we don't really have a responsibility here, but we're going to be good partners, and we're going to help fix a problem in the community. And I think that should be noted as well. But anyway, with that, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve item H.
We already have a motion and a second. Commissioner Mike?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ironically, I was involved in this when it started over a year ago. I was in the city council and our city staff, and it was numerous conversations and huge challenges on the ownership and the way that this is one of those not a very common item where 3 or 4 jurisdictions own part of the road. I don't think that's a common around the county. It might be some, but it's not every day. Anyway, we had numerous conversations, and somehow I think between the city of Wichita and with David Spears at the county and others came up with this partnership, which I think the citizens expect, and the citizens don't really realize who owns what. But that road, if you've driven it, Commissioner Howell, you might notice that, keep your teeth together, because about every 10 yards you're hitting a crack. And there's just been a big article in the Business Journal that it's the only entrance into the Crestview area from the golf course perspective. And we tried to fast track last year because it's embarrassing for the community when we have thousands and thousands of visitors, many out of town, come in there taking that road. This has a huge economic impact. The foundation that runs the golf tournament puts money back into local charities. It's not a national thing that goes. The golfers don't show up here and then disappear and all the money disappears. It's a local event, and it's a chance for us to show good for the residents and the daily usage. It actually has a lot of usage on it. So with that, we came up with this, and it was We all said that let's go back to our respective government agencies and see if it would work, and everybody did, and we came back together and said this is the best way to do it, and the city said that the city would take over ownership and maintenance, snow removal, everything else upon completion of this. This solution might last 5, 6, 7 years or something, and then the city of Wichita can determine if they want a curb and gutter and drainage and do all the things based on traffic and everything else. So this was an incredibly logical and a decent way to solve this problem. Other problems around the county, I respect. If everybody could do a similar manner, that's fine. But on this item, this is done right, and I would have been glad to have explained every meeting. I've not had one phone call, and I've talked to former Commissioner Unruh this morning and asked him if he had any feedback of disarray or objection to what we wanted to do, and he's had none, and I've had 0, and so I respect what you're saying, that maybe you've been involved in this, Commissioner Howell, but nobody's talked to me about it, and I was involved from the day one, and I would have been more than happy to visit with you if you wanted to come to my office and talk about all this. I've been glad to do so. So with that, I clearly am in supportive of this, so we can move the community in that region forward on this a very difficult stretch of road.
Thank you. To be clear, this project is wholly within Commissioner Meitzner's district. He has been working on it in the past. Commissioner Unruh worked on it great length while he was still here. I know that there are 4 different governments involved in this, and I appreciate the fact that they all 4 came together and came up with a solution that I think will serve the citizens in Sedgwick County now and into the future. Wichita will approve this next week, from what I understand, and they will wholly annex this road. Is that not correct, Mr. Papoon?
That's true.
Okay. So at that point in time, this is a way to show good partnership between 4 different governments. So I do believe that it's time that we move forward with this. Commissioner Howell has another comment.
Yeah, just for a clarification, they've already annexed the road. The problem is there's a conflict because the improvement district boundary goes to the center line of the road, and so the annexation that was done in 2005 actually includes the entire road width, and there's a dispute now. Crestview says you can't annex an improvement district, and Wichita essentially did do that, so there's a conflict, and that's the basis of why we're involved in this. This cleans that up. I don't think there's anything that Wichita has to do to annex this. What this does today is there's a clause in here that says essentially Crestview Country Club will not dispute that previous annexation, and so Wichita has already annexed the property. Is that correct?
Yeah, as a correction, and Mr. Fessinger can get up if I error again. I believe it's the improvement district that has the authority, and will not challenge the annexation that the city of Wichita has already done. And I don't think the city of Wichita will have to take any action again.
Yeah, that's correct. This agreement, if executed by all the parties, will resolve any question as to who owns this road.
And just as a comment, I've always been available to talk about this. Minnehaha is 1/3 of my district. I've been in contact with the trustees on that board. I've spent a fair amount of time talking about this and over the last month and trying to research this. And I also have been very available. But, you know, as I said a minute ago, the board itself is conflicted. They had a 2-0 vote. This is not really what one of the trustees wants. The Minnehaha actually said they wanted to take over this road, and they would provide $1 million to make this a road that they wanted. That was one of the proposals along this 6-month discussion, is that Minnehaha wanted to do that, and I think that's the basis for why it was a 2-0 vote versus a 3-0 vote. But and I agree. You know, we have many visitors to this community. We want to impress them with our city. And as they go to the events there at Crestview Golf Course, we want them to be impressed and not look at this as a city that has needs that's not being taken care of. So this needs to be fixed, obviously. I totally support that. I just think there's a lot of lessons to be learned here. And so, again, just to finalize my comments, I'm supportive of it. I made the motion. We need to go forward. We are being good partners with Wichita and with Minnehaha. and for Crestview. And I think that's that should demonstrate, goodwill across the board. We're getting along with everyone, and I think the county is being gracious to do so. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I see no one else that wishes to speak on this item. Madam Clerk, call roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. Thank you. Next item, please.
Legislative issues.
Mr. Papoon.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mike Papoon, Interim County Councilor. I'll give a brief update on some legislative issues. As you all are aware, the 2019 Kansas legislature is in full swing, and many bills are coming up. To update you on a few of the bills that we've been working on that are aligned with our platform, we have been working with the Revisor's Office, in particular Mike Heim in Topeka. Justin Wagner from our office has revised a bill that he has worked on nuisance abatement, so we hope to have that introduced very quickly. We have Tabitha Lehman was very helpful, our election commissioner, with coming up with some language to give to the revisor again, who's working on a bill that will allow voter access to all polling places, which is a county commission priority bill. We're tracking other legislation. I believe I sent all of you a copy of the joint resolution that was drafted by the county's lobbyist, Jason Watkins. He is going to submit that unless there's any objection by the Board of County Commissioners. That has to do with asking Congress to do away with daylight savings time. It differs from the bill that's currently in Topeka that would have Kansas do away with daylight savings time. Our platform position was a joint resolution to ask Congress to do away with daylight savings time, and so that will be introduced into the legislature. And then we're tracking other legislation that the Kansas Association of Counties has brought to our attention, as well as our lobbyist. Senate Bill 3 is a bill we're keeping an eye on that has to do with allowing the Board of County Commissioners in the larger counties to appoint the election commissioner. That's currently in the Senate Ethics, Elections, and Local Government Committee. We have recently received a copy of a bill, House Bill 2050, which by all appearances would adversely affect our jail population, and I know Sheriff Easter and Assistant County Manager Rusty Leeds taking the lead on this, and we're going to be looking at it, but it appears to increase some of the time that our inmates will be doing and takes those inmates out of the Department of Corrections, and we will have a concern about how that will affect the jails. So that's what we're looking at right now, and I'll be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Papoon? Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. More of a comment. I just wanted to say I think all 5 commissioners have been to Topeka in the last week, lobbying some of our ideas. We've been working with our lobbyists to get these bills written, and the staff has done a tremendous job with that. With respect to the bill that would take Kansas out of DST, I don't know if the county wants to take a position on that bill. I think we should. The bill does not represent a policy that I will support, and the reason I say that is I think it's great for Congress to take this up. We should urge them to do so. I think that's very good. That's why I supported that on our platform. And but if the state was to remove itself from DST and stay on standard time, which I guess we are allowed to do without congressional approval, if you want to understand, there's some debate on that, I understand. But if you want to stay on DST, that requires congressional approval. But what she's proposing, I think, is dead on arrival. I don't think there's anybody willing to take it up. It's been controversial in the state. There's been a lot of misunderstanding in the media regarding whether this is a Sedgwick County proposal or a state proposal, or whether we're supporting. In fact, it was even reported that we're supporting that particular bill. I think we need to create some clarity. I personally don't support the county doing this. We don't want to exempt the county from DST. I think that we need to stay with the rest of the state, and I think the state needs to stay in its own time zone and do whatever the rest of the nation is doing. But I think in terms of asking Congress to take this up, that's certainly a worthy discussion, and that's what the resolution's all about. But it has been reported that we're supportive of the bill that has been written, and I guess my position is I'm not supportive of that. So I thought maybe we could have some discussion and determine whether or not the commission is in support of that bill or not. I'm personally not in favor of that.
Thank you. Commissioner Cruz?
Thank you. I just have so would we stay, like, would we spring forward and we would stay there, or when we fall back, do we stay there? Like, how does it work?
Well, the actual joint resolution that Mr. Watkins worked on has asking the federal government just to set it at standard time, not permanent daylight savings time.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I guess I'm a little confused. Can you like?
So
I just don't get that.
In the fall, we would not. It would take effect in November. In the fall, we would not turn our clocks. It would stay. So it would be lighter in the evening.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. That was a little confusing.
And just a quick comment, Chairman, on 2050 that Mr. Papoon talked about. We will be briefing you individually on that with the sheriff and Mr. Leeds also. So you'll get more information on that in the future.
Thank you. Commissioner Meitzner?
Just a quick comment. Respectful for the previous commission and the legislative platform that was adopted. And then the county is doing so much good, and then of course, as Commissioner Howell said, the media kind of jumped on the time zone thing when there's much more important business that's going on. So my personal experience and then outside feedback, I worked in Arizona for 3 years, and it was always confusing when half the year we were on Arizona was on Denver time, and the other half of the year we were on California time, and our suppliers and vendors and customers didn't know when a 8 o'clock in the morning conference call was, what time it was, and I think flying from Wichita just 300 miles to Dallas and having a different time zone directly south of us would be confusing, and I'm sure that Kansas City residents who I have heard from, I've got a lot of friends and business associates in Kansas City saying that they're not really in favor of driving across the street to go to church at 9 o'clock that should have been 8 o'clock and blah, 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 blah. So I personally, I'm respectful of how this came to be on that previous agenda under the previous commission, but I think we've got a lot of important business to do. If the nation wants to change the standards, I'm all for whatever the nation wants to do. So just my feedback, and it's kind of I didn't want to feed phone calls from my friends in Kansas City and others about this. It's not that significant, so I'm just on the record that way. It's not a big deal, but respectful for everybody that did it before.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I do support the resolution that was drafted up by Jason Watkins that asks the federal government to take some action on this. That's the direction that I hope that we go. Second comment is that we've already had more discussion on this one item than warrants. And the press has put more ink into this one item than it warrants. Our major concerns in Sedgwick County are, first of all, the behavioral health issues, yes. And we have 5 or 6 items on our legislative agenda alone that just deal with behavioral health issues, and that's critical, and that's what we need to make sure that, and every time that the press calls and asks me about daylight savings time, I said, this is a minor issue. The major issues that we have are, first of all, behavioral health, transportation issues, things that involve voting to make sure that we're serving our citizens here in Sedgwick County. These are the important things, and I want to make sure that, and I know Dion's here today, so I hope that he puts that in the Eagle, that these are things that are critical to us. So workforce development, transportation, behavioral health, voting, making sure that we support our citizens, those are our critical issues. If the Congress of the United States takes up this other issue that I hope that we have less and less ink on, that's great. At least the discussion has started. But again, we are here to take care of our citizens, and there are more important issues that are involved in that. So I think that our entire commission agrees that we support the resolution that was put together, but beyond that, we're not supporting any kind of Senate bill, House bill that's involved in this. Hey, any other discussions on Commissioner Howe?
Yeah, just to wrap this up, I would just once again say I commend our process, the little use the word palm card, but the card we handed out in Topeka, I handed out, many of those had excellent conversations with respect to priority. Unfortunately, the daylight savings time took way too much of my time talking to legislators. They, I think, unanimously had misunderstandings exactly what we were asking them to do. So again, to the extent we're asking for a resolution to urge Congress to take this issue up, they did not understand that. So it's important that we went there and had these conversations. And I talked with the chairman of the committees to clarify that, and I think that was worthwhile. But I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. This has taken way too much attention. It's not worthy of this much attention. The other issues are much more important. And anyway, I just wanted to say that our process for getting that stuff out in front of the legislators has been very effective. So thank you for the chance to speak.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yeah. Well, I've now been, and as I know you as well, Mr. Chairman, in Topeka last week, this week, talking about issues. I didn't spend any time talking about this, and I've told people I don't even know where the genesis of this came from, whose idea it was to put it on our platform. But yeah, it might be just worth us considering just taking it off our platform totally, because it has taken too much time. And like I said, I don't even know where it came from. It was just brought up in our staff meeting, and so it's kind of ridiculous. So I would go on record just saying let's just stop that and focus on our important issues like mental health and voting, expanding voting locations and stuff. So, and I'm seeing a nod from Commissioner Meitzner, so we might just have the support just to take this thing off totally, because it has become very convoluted.
Thank you. And as Commissioner O'Donnell mentioned, we've been to Topeka a couple times in the last 2 weeks. I spent time up there last week and time up there this week. The major emphasis that has always been as we go into Topeka is workforce development, transportation, and behavioral health, and that's exactly what I talk about
and
every
voting.
time I go up there.
And voting.
And voting. And so these are the things that I talk about when I go into Topeka. And these are the issues. Monday night, 3 of us went up there along with the manager and assistant county manager, and we had a meeting Wednesday night solely, and wasn't Wednesday night. What day was it?
Monday.
Monday night. I've lost track because I've been going so long. Monday night, and the sole thing that we talked about that entire time was behavioral health, and that is a huge issue for Sedgwick County. Well, again, we probably spent enough time on legislative issues today. Madam Clerk, next item.
Other.
Other. Do any commissioners have anything to say under other tonight or this afternoon? Commissioner House.
It's been a long meeting.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know it's probably already been mentioned, but I just wanted to say I want to celebrate once again the KC-46A arrival to the Wichita community. McConnell Air Force Base has been a tremendous host for this new airplane. Boeing and Spirit Aerosystems have worked tirelessly to create this American-made tanker, and I love the airplane being here. I actually have a personal connection to it. I actually was originally hired by Boeing to work on this particular airplane back in 2003, and because of a number of delays by the decision makers, eventually I got moved over to the international tanker. I spent the next 8 years working on developing the 767 international tanker for Italy and Japan. And much of that technology that was proven on that international tanker was actually very useful and carried over directly to the U.S. Air Force KC-46A Pegasus. And so I love the fact that I've got that connection. In fact, the last year I worked with Boeing, I got reassigned back to doing test planning for this airplane, and so I know a little bit about it. I have been involved in it from the very beginning, and I'm so proud of Sedgwick County. In fact, you might remember back, I think it was 2012, that the Pentagon was trying to determine where to put this fleet of airplanes, and the community came together and actually really made a very impressive argument for McConnell Air Force Base. And I was involved in that. I provided written testimony and spoke before the decision makers, and they came to WSU, and the community really did a tremendous job, and we were able to secure that award to be the first main operating base of this Air Force tanker. And so this has been a long process, altogether 18 years. And we saw it come to fruition this last week by the arrival of the KC-46. And so So I am celebrating. This is, of course, in my district, and I just want to say I love what's going on here. The jobs, the people who operate and maintain this airplane, a lot of them live in my area, my district. The Spirit Aerosystems that produces these airplanes, and I think they're way too humble. We're talking about, I think over the life of the airplane, we're talking probably somewhere between 300 and 400 airplanes will be built. That does not include the sales to other countries, which I think is another aspect of this we haven't really even thought about yet, as well as derivative aircraft. And so we're talking probably north of 400 airplanes that will keep our Spirit Aerosystems manufacturing plant busy for many, many years to come. And so I think this is exciting for Sedgwick County, and I'm so proud of all those involved to make this happen. And I just want to make those comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments under other today? Commissioner O'Donnell.
I would just like to echo some of that Commissioner Howell said, that KC-46 event, both the one in the afternoon and the one in the evening, were spectacular, and both you and obviously Commissioner Meister were able to speak at the dock event the next day, which was just, it was phenomenal. Just the whole weekend, so much excitement happened. And one particular note that I thought was so great at the dinner that night at McConnell was former Congressman Todd Tiahrt was there, who was affectionately known as Tanker Todd by President Bush, because he single-handedly was able to get that contract overturned. And then there was a video message from Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and he was instrumental in securing that those tankers were going to be on base at McConnell. So it just, the legacy that our communities had through both of those members of Congress is indelible, their mark. So I thought to me that was probably the greatest part of that night, was just seeing that all that work of community partnership and that our community selected the right leadership paid off. So thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other comments. I just want to echo our congratulations to McConnell Air Force Base for the first two Pegasus KC-46As that arrived tomorrow afternoon. 3 and 4 arrive. So if anyone wants to go out and see 3 and 4 coming in, why, that's happening. McConnell's had a great couple weeks with the Installation Excellence Award out of all the Air Force bases in the entire world. McConnell is one of 2 that's in the running for Installation Excellence Award, and as I recall, the winner of that gets $800,000 just to spend however they want to improve their base. Runner-up doesn't do too bad; they get $200,000. So I hope Ramstein enjoys their $200,000. But and as has been mentioned, congratulations to the Friends of Doc, who built a beautiful hangar to house a very important airplane to the history of our United States that played a big part in the ending of World War II. So I want to congratulate the Friends of Doc also. So that concludes all of the comments under other. Madam Clerk, next item.
Executive session.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Yes. We're looking at maybe 2 executive sessions, but I think we'll make a proposal for one and then come back and then follow it up with another, the way I understand it. But on this one, I move that the Board of County Commissioners recess an executive session for 10 minutes until 10:45. 10:45. If it's 10:36 right now, 10:45. For consultation with an attorney for this commission, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship to discuss a legal claim.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. And we'll go back to the small conference room in our area. And call the meeting back to order. Declare that during executive session today, no binding action was taken. Mr. Papoon, do you have any comments?
Yes, Commissioners. At this time, I would ask for approval by the Board of County Commissioners to approve a settlement in the amount of $35,750 to Matthew Weber. This involves a claim that occurred on October 30th, 2018, approximately 7:30 a.m. in the morning, when one of our employees, a Department of Corrections employee, rear-ended Mr. Matthew Weber and his vehicle. And the request this morning is to settle this claim for the property value of the vehicle only, and would ask for that approval.
Thank you.
I'll make that motion.
Move to approve by Commissioner O'Donnell. I'll second the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. And Commissioner Meitzner, do you have a motion?
Yes, I have a executive session motion. Move that the Board of County Commissioners recess into executive session for 30 minutes until 11:20 a.m. for the purpose of discussing personnel matters of non-elected personnel regarding the performance review of a county employee.
Second, any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Cruz?
Aye.
Commissioner Howell?
Aye.
Commissioner Meitzner?
Aye.
Chairman Dennis?
Aye. We are in recess. We go.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Shooby-dooby-doo-up, shooby-dooby-doo. Shooby-dooby-doo-up, shooby-dooby-doo. Shooby-dooby-doo-up, shooby-dooby-doo. Ah, dip-a-dooby-dooby-doo. Oh, dum-a-dooby-oh. 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 Whoa, 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 whoa. Ah, dum-a-dooby-ah. 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 Whoa, 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 whoa. Shooby-dooby-doo-up, shooby-dooby-doo. Shooby-dooby-doo-up, shooby-dooby-doo. Shooby-dooby-doo-up, shooby-dooby-doo. Ah, dip-a-dooby-dooby-doo. Oh, dum-a-dooby-doo. Oh, dum-a-dooby-doo. Oh, dum-a-dooby-ah. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Between the thin red line, the thin blue line, and the thin white line lies the thin gold line. This narrowest of lines represents those who are rarely seen, but always heard and appreciated. The calm voice in the dark, the heroes behind the scenes, the golden glue that holds it all together. 911 dispatchers.
Sedgwick County 911, what is your emergency?
The 911 dispatcher is essential. When I'm en route to a call, they're continuously giving us updates, so I know what's going on before I get to the call. And then when I arrive at the call, sometimes I'm the only person, so they're my eyes and ears when I can't be.
One thing that drew me in the most is I love helping people, and then I started and realized that I love how much we help people, and the excitement every day is different.
911 dispatchers are extremely important to Sedgwick County Fire Department. They're the first ones on scene. They're the ones that have the first contact with our citizens that are having this emergency. They are the ones who notify what units need to go to a particular emergency. They're the ones who tell us how many units need to go. They are a vital success to the outcome of all the calls that we run. We couldn't do that job without them.
I really wanted to be that person after you go through something really traumatic and you have to call 911 and then you finally get that calm voice and you're like, okay, it's going to be okay.
Hectic, but very rewarding, because you never know what's going to happen on that next phone call, whether you're going to be saving a life.
My favorite part about the job is the adrenaline. I love the fast pace when things are getting busy, when we're getting chases, or when we're, really helping someone that I know needs the help.
If you're interested in being the first responder, email workfor911@sedgwick.gov or call 660-4977 for more information.
Wichita was built on a floodplain. Early settlers even called the area from hillside to ridge road swampland. In the 1800s, several large floods hit the area. But it wasn't until after the 1944 flood that left more than 5,000 temporarily homeless, the city started a flood control committee. That's where MS Mitch Mitchell, or Big Ditch Mitch, comes into the story. After just 10 days on the job as an office engineer, he was sent out into the field.
They made me wade through about 1.5 feet of water. Now, I'm in my office dress and shoes, and they made me wade through the water to get to the road where the drive was.
And what started out as a 6-week commitment to the project led to a lifelong career with the City-County Flood Control Office.
A lot of planning went into how many of those local flooding systems can be incorporated in that particular project, and the floodway was the only way to do it.
But convincing everyone it was a good idea was another story.
There was a tremendous amount of objection to the acquisition of right-of-way. For that, we don't have any flooding up here, and you're ruining my field, and you're cutting off the highway, and all of those things, that they did not recognize the importance of that diversion.
The design for the Wichita Valley Center floodway was modeled after one Mitchell saw in California.
They were very helpful. They sent us their manuals for construction of the lining, for the maintenance of the lining, how these things should be under drain systems. So they gave us the design work for what you see on the paved canal now. The main project was the diversion of the Little Arkansas River, some water from the Chisholm Creek system, and some water from the Arkansas River through what became known as the Big Ditch. There were people who said, you can't do that. You can't put that Little River water in the Big River. Well, we did.
And that Big Ditch has been his legacy. Tony Giuliano is the art director for Sedgwick County. You've probably seen his work. But when he's not designing for the county, he's got his whistle on the soccer pitch.
He looked at me and he said, "You're skinny, you're young, you can run, you should ref soccer." And 15 years later, I'm still doing it.
Moving up the ranks.
And it's opened up a lot of doors for me. I refed at the local level and the JUCO and the NAI levels all the way up to Division I.
Achieving a collegiate level national badge.
It's exhilarating. I really enjoy that challenge. I mean, at that level, you're reffing the best athletes.
Reffing around 60 matches a year.
You'll find a common phrase in the referee community. It's for the love of the game. Soccer, to a lot of us, is a big part of our lives, whether played it, watch it, or referee it, or all three. And it's given back to the game.
Something that helps ease the stress of his day job.
It just allows me to challenge or to accept and really take on any challenge. And a stressful environment at work, it kind of is easy after running 6 to 8 miles in a match and getting yelled at from everybody.
Crediting Sedgwick County for allowing him to pursue both of his passions.
It's a neat honor. I've gotten to travel to do some really high-level games, work with referees across the United States. It's just been a very rewarding second career, if you will.
Tony Giuliano is the art director for Sedgwick County. You've probably seen his work. But when he's not designing for the county, he's got his whistle on the soccer pitch.
He looked at me and he said, "You're skinny, you're young, you can run, you should ref soccer." And 15 years later, I'm still doing it.
Moving up the ranks.
And it's opened up a lot of doors for me. I refed at the local level and the JUCO and the NAI levels all the way up to Division I.
Achieving a collegiate level national badge.
It's exhilarating. I really enjoy that challenge. I mean, at that level, you're reffing the best athletes.
Reffing around 60 matches a year.
You'll find a common phrase in the referee community. It's for the love of the game. Soccer, to a lot of us, is a big part of our lives, whether played it, watch it, or referee it, or all three. And it's given back to the game.
Something that helps ease the stress of his day job.
It just allows me to challenge or to accept and really take on any challenge. And a stressful environment at work, it kind of is easy after running 6 to 8 miles in a match and getting yelled at from everybody.
Crediting Sedgwick County for allowing him to pursue both of his passions.
It's a neat honor. I've gotten to travel to do some really high-level games, work with referees across the United States. It's just been a very rewarding second career, if you will.
If you've ever needed a snack while visiting the Sedgwick County Courthouse, you've probably seen Wes Brummer. He and his wife Debbie run the Snack Zone. Brummer also furnishes all the vending machines in the county. But when he's not keeping us fed, he spends his time writing historical fiction.
I grew up in a family that liked to tell stories. My folks grew up during the Depression.
That's part of what inspired his book, Dust and Roses.
It's basically about a young woman who takes a big fall, and the rest of the story is her redeeming herself.
Writing hasn't come without challenges. Brummer was born with severe low vision.
Describing color, that was probably one of my weaknesses in the story. I didn't put enough color description.
But that's never stopped him. He sold about 150 copies of Dust and Roses, which can be found in the Snack Zone or on Amazon. And he's working on his second book.
My character is a German prisoner of war that finds himself in Camp Concordia.
He hopes to have it complete by summer of 2018. Habitat for Humanity provides opportunities for families to achieve affordable home ownership.
The volunteers, we don't have the hands to reach out to recruit the families. We don't have the hands to go and meet with these families and help them along their journey.
One of those volunteers is Sedgwick County employee Greg Gann.
Next thing you know, I'm on 3 committees, and here it is 10 plus years later, and it's just a great fit for me.
Gann serves on the Home Buyers Committee, reviewing applicants and doing on-site home visits.
He is always enthusiastic and excited to introduce families, to tell their story, and to talk about not only the challenges that they face, but how they overcame those challenges.
You realize just how difficult it is for families to find clean, safe, affordable housing in good neighborhoods where they can raise their family without much care. These houses are filled with love. It doesn't matter if you don't know which end of a hammer to use. We'll find something that fits your ability and you can participate.
Having volunteers like Greg who are committed, who are willing to give of their time, their talent, their treasure, we can't ask for anything more. It's truly a blessing.
Wow, every day is a great day. I come to the job sites, we go on home visits, we meet. I can't think of a bad day, not once. It's truly been life-changing for me.
If you're hurt, you want help to come fast. That's where these bikes come in.
We're able to fit into places the ambulance can't.
The Sedgwick County EMS bike team was started in 2009 with the help of grants and community donations. crew members must try out to be part of the team.
I love coming down here to Riverfest and helping out. I love biking, so it's just kind of combining two of my loves together.
Then they work in two-person crews. Additional support is provided with this. It's how patients are transported out of the crowd after the bike team provides treatment. It's also proven to be faster and more cost-effective.
Our response times are 1/10 of what they used to be down here, and we're using 75% less personnel to get the job done.
And provides a great opportunity for the public.
Just being able to interact with the community, I think, is pretty awesome. They could have come up and asked us a lot more questions. We're a little bit more accessible than we are in the ambulances usually, so we get to see a lot more of the people and hang out with the kids.
Lake Afton. More than 720 acres of fun. All within a 20-minute drive from Wichita. Join us as we take a look inside the park.
I think the biggest draw for this lake is its proximity to Wichita and the big city. It's close, it's convenient.
There's something for everyone. Boating, swimming, water skiing, fishing, camping, looking at the stars, and much more. Tom Ames has been coming out to the lake for 10 years. This flying field on the west side of the lake is open to the public for sport and hobby flying.
This is one of the very best places to fly in the whole state, actually. Lots of open space, real nice runway. It's just a great facility for us. We really appreciate being able to come out here.
Maybe you're looking for the catch of the day.
Bread and butter fish for Lake Afton is, of course, the catfish. The largest catfish that I'm aware of that's been caught out of here weighed 86 pounds back in the late 80s.
Or just a little peace and quiet.
Clear night, you can see and hear everything. You see all the lanterns, you can hear people talking. It's just an amazing sight to see.
And the excitement continues.
It's been a popular spot for people to attend and visit as it continues today.
Celebrating 75 years of fun in the sun.
I think this lake is cemented in its time frame. It's going to be here for many, many more years to come.
As we were going through the records, we discovered some very interesting things.
The role of the Register of Deeds office is to file and store all real estate documents.
Basically, it's ownership of land, and it's very important, and it started in the 1800s.
But that wasn't always the case. Like this depiction of God, or these instructions to make a wig.
I think some people just wanted to file them here because it was an opportunity to have it filed officially somewhere, and maybe this for them was the most convenient place.
But it's the history that's the most interesting. These are the first plats of land for Wichita.
So this is what the city looked like when it was brand new in 1870.
And the history that made Wichita the air capital of the world. Deeds to the Travel Air Company, started by Beech, Stearman, and Cessna.
So these aircraft companies go back a long way. These all started in the 1920s.
There's even a local connection to former President Obama. His grandparents and other family members lived in Wichita in the 60s.
His grandparents moved from Wichita in the 1960s to go to Hawaii, where they helped his mother raise him.
And then there's the Wild West. This deed is from Billy the Kid's mother, who ran a company washing soldiers' clothes.
She also dabbled in real estate. So there's several deeds where she's granting property and also where she bought her own property.
Billy the Kid also lived with his mother here in Wichita.
These documents are so important and they're so unique that we want to preserve them. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We have more. We have lots more.
We're back from executive session. I want to state that during executive session, no binding action was taken. Does anything else need to come before the board today?
Sir.
Seeing nothing, we're adjourned. Thank you all.